Good morning, I'm Gary DeWaal, and this is Bridging the Week for January 30th through February 3rd, and today is February 6, 2017. President Donald Trump has begun to follow through on his campaign promises to reduce all federal regulations, and in particular to ensure that laws and regulations impacting financial services conform to so-called core principles of effective regulation. This appears to be the first salvo in an attack against the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. In addition, at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission's request, CME Group updated one of its rules to mirror the CFTC's fraud-based manipulation rule. All attention was on executive orders and presidential statements and actions coming out of Washington, D.C. last week, so I can redirect my attention to the work on my desk as soon as possible. Let's get started. Last week, through the issuance of two executive orders, President Donald Trump began to follow through on his campaign promises to reduce the number of all federal regulations, and in particular, laws and regulations impacting financial services. The first executive order required all federal agencies to identify at least two existing regulations for repeal whenever they propose or promulgate a new regulation. The second ordered the Secretary of the Treasury to consult with the heads of member agencies of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which includes, among other agencies, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and the Securities and Exchange Commission, to assess whether any current laws and regulations are inconsistent with certain enumerated core principles for the optimal regulation of financial services. This appears to be a first step in a potential dismantling of all or some provisions of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, which the White House has termed, quote, a disastrous policy that's hindering our markets, reducing the availability of credit, and crippling our economy's ability to grow and create jobs, end of quote. The Secretary of the Treasury, who has not yet even been confirmed by the U.S. Senate, has 120 days to provide preliminary views to the President on this matter. Let's see where this ends up. CME Group amended its general offenses rule for each of its designated contract markets and its swap execution facility to add provisions that mirror language in a Commodity Futures Trading Commission rule that prohibits fraud-based manipulation. What's interesting about this development is that the CFTC expressly requested the CME Group to add these amendments. In addition, the CME Group amended its rule regarding Globex access restrictions to make technical fixes. However, I think these changes may be quite substantive. My thinking on this is included in the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. Edward Jones, a broker-dealer registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and a member of the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, agreed to pay a fine of $150,000 US to resolve charges that it incorrectly aggregated related accounts of some of its customers, thus denying some related customers a discounted rate for margin loans available to larger accounts. According to FINRA, this occurred because of a computer system error and the firm's failure to test its computer system. The firm previously voluntarily refunded overcharged amounts to affected customers. I have some thoughts on this case and a recent similar case brought by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission against a futures commission merchant for incorrectly applying exchange rebates of fees on my website. Check it out. And finally, Deutsche Bank AG agreed to pay sanctions of slightly more than 163 million Great British pounds, or approximately 203 million US dollars, to the UK Financial Conduct Authority and 425 million US dollars to the New York State Department of Financial Services to resolve charges that had failed to follow applicable anti-money laundering requirements when it allowed unknown customers to use its Moscow, London, and New York offices to move approximately 10 billion US dollars from Russia to offshore bank accounts. According to the New York regulator, between 2011 and early 2015, corporate clients of Deutsche Bank Russia on multiple occasions purchased Russian blue-chip stocks, paying rubles, while shortly afterwards a related entity, including a number of entities registered in Cyprus or the British Virgin Islands, sold the identical stock in London and were paid US dollars. However, claimed the FCA, the Moscow side customers, quote, had a number of high-risk characteristics that were not categorized as high risk by Deutsche Bank, end of quote, and insufficient information was obtained by the firm, quote, to ensure that appropriate due diligence was performed, end of quote, on London side customers. As a result, said FCA, Deutsche Bank was not able to assess whether there were connections between the Moscow side and London side customers. This helped facilitate potential underloading by the Deutsche Bank customers charged the regulators. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Bridging the Week. As always, there's more information in each article and more articles on the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. I'm Gary DeWaal. Have a great week, and until the next edition of Bridging the Week, a week from today, ciao.